WFH with two guys. Now here's Benny and Dennis.
At some point in any entrepreneur's life, we have to think about what it means for us to eventually leave our business, whether that business movement is done at a good or bad time. Preparation is going to be very important. And we have to think about the exit. Dennis, this is something that's super near and dear to your heart.
It is. And as you think about it, there's lots of moving parts. You can do it yourself. But I can speak from experience. Having someone that understands how to sell a business is so valuable to come alongside you, because it's not just the numbers. There's emotion. There's roadblocks that you don't even think about. And so having that advisor, broker, guy, gal to come alongside is so important to help you navigate. And the other key piece is they help you look kind of at a timeline, because so many people think, hey, I can put my business up for sale tomorrow. And you can, but you could do so much better if you prepped for it.
Russell Carriere is the broker and owner at First Choice Business Brokers over in Tennessee. And this is a really fascinating conversation, Dennis. Not only did we talk a little bit about valuations and how we look at the costs, or I should say the price that we arrive for selling our businesses, but really he talked a little bit on the other side, and something I hadn't thought about. This is a really fascinating conversation. I think this is something that everybody who has any type of ownership stake, this is going to be a good podcast for you to listen to. So let's take a listen. When I think about starting a business, the day-to-day for me is just running my business. But at some point, we have to think about an exit. An exit can mean a lot of different things. And Dennis, for me, I've always kept it as that's so far away in the future. But for you, this is a reality that not too long ago you were playing and contemplating with.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's one where I'm nearing the finish line of the business world and has been trying to think about, okay, is it time to sell or not? And there's lots of moving parts to it. And today we've got Russell Carriere with us to talk about just helping think about what goes on when you're trying to sell a business and what's life like. And so, Russell, welcome.
Oh, thank you very much. Very happy to be here. Thanks
for coming on the show today. I think the big question when it comes to selling a business is, how do you go about doing it? I think about selling a business. It's, recently I bought a car. I've bought and sold houses. This is a lot different than any type of big transaction we've ever done in the past, isn't it?
Yes. And normally it's going to be the largest transaction you ever do as an individual.
Right.
And I get a lot of comparisons when people talk to me about buying and selling a business. Well, it's just like buying a house. And as you mentioned, Benny, it is so far, it is not even close, to be honest with you.
I can't even imagine, just thinking about it right now. And I've never sold a business. I should take that back. We had a little retail store. It was fairly easy from a transactional standpoint. We only ran the business for about a year. And so a lot of things were kind of spelled out for us. But in actually a business where I've spent 20, 30, 40 years of my life building, the way that I even think about it, I wouldn't know where to begin. I wouldn't even know where to start. I mean, what are some of the things that you have to kind of factor in when you're thinking about selling a business, and how do you really figure out what the worth of your company is? That's something I can't put an idea of where to start.
That's another good question. When it comes to valuating a business, there are a ton of companies, people that provide valuations. As a business broker, we provide that. And what I always caution people, especially sellers, is we can do a valuation of what we feel your business is worth in today's market. At the end of the day, the market will dictate what that business is worth. And I'll give you an example. I'm talking with a client right now. They have an SDE of $600,000 a year. SD is seller discretionary earnings. That is what's left over after cost of goods and expenses. And based on our calculations, they have a multiplier, and I'll keep it simple, of 3. So what you do is you multiply 3 by 600. We're saying it's worth 1.8. And they're flat out, we will not sell this business for less than 3.5. That's great. I mean, and you as a seller, you determine that. I mean, it is your business at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you put that business on the market is going to react to that price based on those numbers, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I have to caveat this. Every business is different. Businesses have different multipliers depending on the category of business that they are. If you're a very common business, your multiplier is going to be reduced. If you're a very niche business, where you have something unique that the market overall doesn't have, your multiplier is going to go up. And so this is what you need to look at when you're thinking about selling your business. What kind of business are you? Can anybody do this business? What is going to be unique to you to a buyer, right? And then at the end of the day, the buyers come in, they look at the business, and for the example I gave at 3.5, most buyers are not even going to show an interest in that business, and eventually that seller will start reducing the price.
And that's like a home. When you start it too high and it sits on the market too long, the interest of other parties diminishes greatly over a period of time.
Absolutely. Now, here is something to be cautious of. When you list a house or a business, and we can all use it, let's use the real estate analogy because it'll work in this scenario. Imagine a house that's been on the market for 60 days, and you're interested in the house, and you look, and they listed it at $1 million. Then after 15 days, it went to $950. 15 days, it went to $900. 15 days, it went to $850. What are you thinking as a buyer?
I'm going to wait them out to get down to even a lower price point.
Exactly. They're going to start getting desperate, and I'm just going to throw a low ball offer at it. It's no different. This is the commonality of buyers. This is how buyers think overall. So be very careful. You may want 3.5, but if you have a professional you're working with and they're telling you, this is kind of out of the range, take the advisement, think about it. At the end of the day, it's your decision, but you don't want to start doing price drops because the market's going to react negatively.
Yeah, and so Russell, let's talk about also just getting. So one of the things, if you are going to sell a business, is to understand that value. That's important, and to make sure what you expect and what the market evaluation is within range. If you're at 3.5 and the market says 1.8, you probably aren't going to sell it. You're probably going to hold on to it at that point because the differential is just too great. And if that's the thought, but there's lots of other moving parts that go in then to, let's say, hey, it valued at 1.8. I'd like to sell it for 2. That's close enough that it's like, okay, there's negotiation rooms. If they come in at 1.7, I'm at 2, 300,000, still may sell it because I'm close enough to the differential. But if they come in at $1 million and I'm at 2, probably not going to do it. But, what are some other things that go into it? Because I've actually been going through this because we've thought about, we've had the company evaluated on our side and then start thinking about, do we sell it or not? And there's all kinds of things happening in my head, and I'm sure you've seen it all with the other ones. Just kind of talk about what goes on in people's heads as they're trying to sell their business.
Absolutely. And this is something that, and I'm going to pick on sellers a little bit, they don't realize the emotional side of selling something that you put your heart and soul into. And it doesn't matter if it's a year or 30 years. It really doesn't, because it's yours. And most people have some emotional ties when they sell a motorcycle, a car, a boat, a house. Those are things that you use, right? Typically. Mm-hmm. A business is something, it's a relationship with your business that is very close. You're intimate with it. And when you go to sell it, you don't realize that you're going to get anxiety, fear. Those all play into it. And I hate to say this, but it's almost like you're watching somebody go through a death process, because now you are parting yourself from something that you spent so much time with. It's a relationship. So as a seller, be aware that these emotions are going to come into play. Be aware that very sophisticated buyers are aware of this, and they're going to leverage your emotions against you. Okay? The biggest advice that I could give a seller if they're preparing to sell is try to go through that grieving process beforehand. Separate yourself emotionally from the business. Change it to an investment. Change it to a fixture. It is truly an asset that you are going to take out of your portfolio and take the funds and reinvest. It's a different mindset.
Yeah, and I think you talked about it. You've also got to look at the cash flow of what it was like if you kept the business over the next, say, 5-10 years versus selling it. Can you take that money and invest it and do better? Because in some cases, in mine, I'll use me as an example. A couple of the buyers were not going to pay, didn't want to pay the lump sum, but they wanted to own the whole thing on the front side. And it's like, okay, that changes that cash flow significantly of what I had modeled. That it's like, I don't know if that's really going to work for me based on how I wanted to do it. Because if I'm expecting X and I'm only getting a half of X, it impacts you. And so you've got to look and be ready. And it's a lot of numbers stuff. So if you're in the business where you're not a numbers person, having an expert like Russell or others, it's important because there's a lot of moving parts that are going on.
Absolutely. I advise every seller, when you're thinking about selling your business, is if you don't have one personally, get one, a financial advisor or planner. Yep. Immediately.
This is interesting. And I think a lot of us, in the way we approach, obviously, I think if you've put anything and any effort into your business or really a hobby or whatever it happens to be, you're going to have emotional attachment to it. And the bottom line, the reason, people have to keep in mind, you're selling this for this is a transaction, and no buyer is going to have the emotional connection that you do to your business. It's something that you've worked on for, potentially decades. I would also wonder too, as well, aside from the monetary aspect to this, Russell, people get really emotional and they don't really think about what happens after the sale. Say you've agreed upon a price and, they felt that was a good transaction, but to see maybe the name taken off the building or their company taken apart, or maybe it was sold off for scraps and they just kind of took the good parts that they needed to incorporate in their business. These are things that people don't really think about, do they?
In most cases, no, they don't. And again, when you are looking at the business as a relationship, right? You're the owner of this entity and you've been together for so long. When you make that decision to sell, and that transaction finalizes, and I know this is extremely hard to do, let it go. We actually offer a professional to speak with sellers, and we give 2 hours for free. Nobody takes me up on it.
They should. I'm telling you, they should.
It makes, because again, it's like a death. It's like, that's the only way I can describe it. I've sold my own businesses.
That's a great way to describe it. Because also, like in my case, the buyers wanted me to stay on for 3 or 4 years afterwards. But now you're going from an owner where you got to make the decisions to now you're an employee. And so those were things that I struggled with personally. That's like, okay, the reason I started this business was to get out of corporate America and all the bureaucracy. I don't know if I want to finish my career back in bureaucracy the last 3 or 4 years, even though it was my baby, but now it's not my baby. So they're dressing my baby different. They're doing different things with this thing. and I don't like it, but I don't have any way of changing it because I've given ownership of that entity to them. So there's all kinds of things that are going on in people's heads through that process.
Absolutely. And just as an FYI, Benny, you mentioned, the buyers come in, they don't have the same emotional aspects. They do, they're just different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dennis, I know you went through this process. You didn't get toward the end probably enough. And you mentioned it earlier before we joined on this. Buyers get buyer's remorse and they get fear. Am I making the right decision in buying this business? And I've seen deals fall apart literally at the closing table where the buyer gets cold feet and says, you know what, I just can't do it. And panic sets in. And the deal's done. And they can never truly recover from that.
Right.
It's a very interesting process.
Yeah. Wow. I never really thought about that part of it, I have to admit.
Because from the buyer's perspective, there's some risk, definitely a lot of risk. They're taking the value of what you've said, that everything's truthful, and hopefully the business owner is being truthful, but let's be honest, in today's world, some of them may not be telling you the whole fact, or that, hey, I've got this contract, but they forget to tell you that the contract's going to expire in 3 months and nobody bothered ever to ask, and then you sign and then the contract goes away and the company's not really worth what you thought it was. Or there's all kinds of different things. Or that there's a new competitor coming in the market that the buyer didn't do their research until about 2 weeks before and finds out that, ooh, right across the street there's a new, Chick-fil-A going to open up across from my little chicken store that may not do as well as I was doing before. So, there's all kinds of moving parts.
Let me give you another example for a buyer. So if you're buying a business, depending, a lot of buyers go through the SBA, right?
Yep.
It's easier financing than going traditional lenders. The SBA is going to put a lien on everything you own to buy that business. It's going to be anywhere from 10 to 20% depending on your situation. So let's say it's $1 million business and I got to put 20% down. So I have $200,000 that I am going to put my cash on the line to buy this $1 million business. And this is where the fear comes in, right? So it's tangible. I just put almost $250,000 to buy somebody else's business that I did my due diligence. I did as much as I possibly could. But in the back of everybody's mind is, did I do enough? And as Dennis pointed out, is there a contract I don't know about? Is a competitor moving in? Is the economy going to tank? Because they're on the hook regardless at this point. Once they sign and they give that commitment, yes, I'm buying this business, it's truly theirs. There's nobody else to fall back on. And if in the mind, they're like, what if I screw up? Because everybody has it. We all have that little devil on our shoulder that says, what if I don't do it right? What if I don't keep the sales going? What if I truly can't grow this company? But I'm on the hook for this note for almost $250,000. And if I fail, they're not just taking the business, because I had to put my house up, my car up, my savings up, any mutual funds, any stocks, anything that I had of value is now leaned against. So this is where the emotional side for the buyer comes in, because there's a lot at stake. Again, it's not like a house. Yes, you have a loan on the house, but you have a very big tangible asset and the lien's on the house. That's it. And you can sell that house pretty easily, typically. A business is different.
So Russell, earlier before we got on, you were talking about, what's going to be happening in the future. How many businesses are going to be bought and sold over the next near future? Share with the audience. It's amazing what's going to happen.
Now, I'm going to put asterisks around this and quotes and everything else. So all the pundits are now saying that it's a tidal wave of mergers and acquisitions over the next 10 to 15 years because the baby boomers are getting out of the business world. Mm-hmm. They're going to be retiring or they're going to be passing away. Those are the two choices at this point. And the number that they're now saying is $30 trillion worth. That's a T, not a B.
Yeah, and you throw on top of that, you've got all the Gen Xers and all the Gen Zs and all those guys that probably don't want to be in corporate America. That it's a great opportunity to get out there and kind of do your own thing, because to a lot of the younger ones, it's not just the money, it's the freedom and the ability to have a cause that you believe in and all that, which you can definitely do in a small business that you can't do in big corporate entities, that you're kind of strapped with whatever their vision is, not yours.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the number one reasons people start their own business, is because they don't fit into corporate America. And I don't know if most people realize this. The small business owner is actually who runs this country. It's not the Googles, it's not the Facebooks, it's not the Microsofts, it's not the Teslas, it's not the Amazons. It is Mr. and Mrs. Small Business Owner. We contribute more to our economy than the big businesses. The U.S. cannot survive without small business owners. And thank goodness we do have that entrepreneurial spirit in the U.S. where people want to take on this challenge. I love small business owners. I have a lot of respect for them, for what they go through on a day-to-day basis and the risk that they take on in becoming a business owner. I love it.
This is such a huge topic, and we as business owners, and I know the big lot of the podcast listeners in our audience are on the same feeling. But we need to have you back on here again, Russell. And I think that there's so many more questions that we have for you. In the meantime, how can people get a hold of you if they have some questions for you, if they maybe want to run some ideas past you? What's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Absolutely. I appreciate that. So my name is Russell Carriere. I can be reached at 615-288-6886, or you can send me an email at Russell, Russell, at fcbbtn.com.
Fantastic. Russell, thank you so much for stopping by today. This is a great conversation. I know you're going to get a lot of questions, and I know I have a ton more I'm going to ask you the next go around, but thanks again for stopping by.
Oh, thank you, Dennis and Benny. Greatly appreciate it. This was fun. Would love to do it again.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Russell, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, Dennis, that's another podcast in the can. I know that a lot of you all want to know how to get in touch with us. Dennis, what's the best way for folks to be able to get a hold of you?
Yeah, email's by far the best for me. It's Dennis J, so DENNISJ at worksolution.com, and that's WORX solution, no S at the end, so solution.com. Benny, how about you?
Yeah, same thing. Get a hold of me. My email address is benny@velocitytechnology.group. That's BENNY at velocitytechnology.group. Also, for me and Dennis, you can find us on LinkedIn. Look for us on LinkedIn. Our Work From Home with Two Guys is on LinkedIn. And we also have a website, wfh2guys.com. Look us up. You'll find all the past episodes and some little bits of information that maybe we don't get a chance to talk to on the podcast. We put it out there too as well.
And definitely share us with your friends and people in your network.
Absolutely. Let us know what we can do to make this podcast your podcast. Give us some ideas. And if you'd like to be a guest, let us know. We'll talk to you guys soon.
You've been listening to WFH with Two Guys. We'll see you next time.